I'm not reading a poem. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Can now.
It's a vignette, and it's entitled Theft Number 2. I'm not sure if we'll have time for theft number 1, but I'm going to read 2 anyway. I only buy statement or fantasy costume jewellery today, as all my antique valuable jewels have been stolen one way or another. I inherited my grandmother's Victorian jewellery via my mother. One lovely ring in particular was given to my mother Peggy on her 18th birthday and passed on to me on mine in a presentation box with a dedication from my mother. This, along with a silver snuff box on a silver decorative chain, was stolen from my flat in Bayswater years ago. When my mother finally died at the age of 89, I inherited what she had not given away to relatives, in particular a pale blue and green Victorian fine beaded daisy chain necklace, a beautiful heavy double necklace of jade carved beads she had inherited from her sister doll in Cape Town, with matching earrings originally bought in Hong Kong in the 60s. Too heavy to wear, but nice to behold. Then my mother had a lovely twisted 60s gold twisted chain from Boodles, which I wore sometimes as the colour gold with black was de rigueur in the 80s. I also inherited a charming circular gold locket on a fine twisted slender short gold chain. Inside were sepia photographs of both my grandparents, who I had never known. Both were antique dealers in Swansea and with shops. My mother constantly wore this as a choker, and after her death, so did I. When I was commuting to Paris, wheeling and dealing in vintage collectibles in the 70s, I was asked to bring Victorian rings from London by Hélène in Marché Biron, where she had a stand. And as a consequence, I earned 20% of the deal and more, depending on the rate of exchange. I would pass through customs wearing the rings one on top of the other. Martin, my husband, called me a dealer in contraband. Life was good until Mike, a jealous British dealer, denounced her. He was opposite her and could see the jewellery business as an inspector called to check her books. I intelligently took 2 Victorian rings which later served as engagement rings, so my dear future husband never bought me an engagement ring. One of the beautiful rings was with emeralds, diamonds and rubies, and the other I wore atop it on my 4th finger on my left hand was a thin pearl diamond and sapphire ring. These 2 I wore over my gold-inscribed wedding band from my grandmother, which contained a lock of hair on the inside that had been my grandmother's. So in fact I was wearing 3 rings and looked chic. In the late 80s, my husband announced he would only travel on cruises to see the world. Cruisewear and jewellery was a must, so I put some of my best jewellery from the safe into a beautiful rhino leather jewel box I had bought in South Africa. The gold locket and necklace plus coveted Parisian vintage costume jewellery were inside. When we returned, I was lazy putting the jewellery back, leaving the box on the mahogany chest of drawers that graced our bedroom in Kensington Park Road, Notting Hill. One not so fine day, Martin was watering the plants in our front garden when a dealer of sorts passed by, who we knew by sight as he had dreadlocks and was very noticeable. The dude stopped at our gate and asked Martin if he wanted to buy any antique furniture and have it relacquered, as he knew a cabinet maker locally. Now, why did he suppose we had antique furniture in our house? Had he spied on us with a telescope? Our living room had draped curtains over original tall Edwardian shutters. I had designed and decorated the whole room dark green and burgundy, and the adjoining back room in reverse colours with burgundy and gold. Fleur-de-lis John Oliver, hand-blocked wallpaper. If one peered in between the tall palm tree and the front garden, one could see an interesting Edwardian salon beyond, but only a burglar would look in, supposedly. That same night we went to bed at our usual time, around midnight. Normally Martin read until 1 o'clock, while I slept peacefully in our French bed. But that night he didn't, and fell into a deep sleep after a tiring, magical day in his office. Martin never went out. The world came to him. For some reason unknown to me, I had removed both my engagement rings and left them in the bathroom on the side of the basement. I kept my wedding band on, however. Why I took those rings off that particular night is a mystery to me. I awoke suddenly as Martin slept soundly. We always left the hall light on in case either of us wanted to go to the mezzanine bathroom in the middle of the night. The bedroom, while in darkness, always had a ray of light filtering through into the silent bedroom on the first floor. Suddenly, I saw the door slowly and silently closing, with an arm across the shaft of light. My heart was thumping loudly. My mouth went dry. I gulped. My throat was dry and I swallowed with difficulty. I was paralyzed with fear. Finally, after what seemed like a few minutes, I shook Martin awake, telling him in a low voice that there was an intruder in the house. He shot out of bed, put his glasses on, and for some reason went to the French windows to look out. Next, he crept out onto the landing to climb up to his office on the second floor and whispered I must call the police from my office, which was next door to the bedroom. We had no phone in the bedroom, and both of us had forgotten there was an alarm button direct to the police station next to the bed on my side. We were nervous because, for all we knew, the burglar could still be in the house and attack us. The police arrived in 5 minutes. All 3 officers heard my story. In the beginning, they were wary, and then they found a mobile phone on the front doorstep, which they took away for fingerprints and to trace the number. All the pharmaceutical drawers in the hall had been pulled out. My rings were gone from the bathroom, my jewel box from the chest in the bedroom, and finally my beautiful red leather handbag with £50 inside and personal stuff that had been left in the Art Deco Bieber kitchen, as the fashion designer Barbara Hulaniki had been the previous house owner. Strangely enough, on the kitchen floor was a metal badge with the letter B. B for burglar, perhaps? We immediately suspected our Jamaican neighbour, who lived diagonally opposite us in the basement flat, knowing via the grapevine that he was a drugs dealer. The police, despite having his mobile, which had fallen from his pocket as he bent his knees to open our letterbox and push a metal clothes hanger up to open the lock, did not follow up the clue. We later learned this method of entry was a well-known trick if there was no lid on the letterbox, which there wasn't. That night I lost my inherited and earned jewellery. The rest, a diamond Victorian antique S-shaped ring, a 1937 sapphire eternity ring from when my parents married, and another antique diamond platinum ring was stolen by my dear departed husband after 25 years together. Martin forced me to put them into Gorringer's antique auction house in Lewes as we later moved to Brighton, along with the antique inherited silver. Without telling me, he had the cheque and paperwork made out to him, so I ended up with nothing. Today, I do not mourn my loss. In an odd way, I celebrate it. It was a big learning curve for me that material things are not important in life. Relationships and sincere friendships are. You come into this world alone and naked, you go out of this life as you came in.
Yeah. Well done.
Do we have time for the number one?
Not really, because I've got a lot
Okay,
of
fair
things to
enough.
get on,
Another
and we
time.
need to break.
Another
Yes,
time.
thank you.